This is an image I brought in from, and I thought it was a great idea to think about doing selection. I want to put clouds in this image. Interesting thing about what I just said about put clouds in this image is a lot of people are now reacting to say, well, that's not how you shot it. Well, those weren't your clouds, were da 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 da. And I think, I don't care. I do, and I say, I'll do anything I want to my images because I'm creating a piece of art. I'm not trying to represent reality. So here's this image, and I could do the selection of the background. I could get the magic wand and just click around, and boy, it did it pretty well. It has some stuff here, and I don't want those, so I could hold the Alt key and roam around there. But the easier way would be to, so you understand how these tools work, do that selection, excuse me, and it has that part there. I then could switch over to the quick selection tool, and up at the top, you can have plus, minus, and so on. So if I click on the minus, or I hold the Alt key down, it will make it minus, and I can take away that portion of a selection that is where I don't want it to be. So I now have, and you see the circle has a little minus in it, meaning I'm taking away rather than adding to. So now I have that selected. Another way would be, don't do what I just did. That was easy enough to do, but I could have right from the beginning come up and said select subject. And in this case, because there's almost nothing in the background, it would select that subject very easily. But once I have that selected, I'll go to, let's see, we'll try these clouds. I would pick a different cloud formation, but this is fine just to show you how it can be done on this, the same as what I did before. So the clouds will come in. And because I have a selection, I can, first of all, select the clouds by, as it comes in, I want all the pixels in the cloud so that I can put them behind the bird. I don't know why it's taking so long today. There we go. So the clouds. So I'll click on the clouds. I'll move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Have the clouds. And before I even do it, I'll do it in there. I have the clouds. Remember, I did a select all, edit, copy. So now I have those pixels in a buffer that I can use it in any image that I have open at the time. So I really don't need that anymore. I'll close it. And I have this selected, either select subject or how I did it, edit, paste special, paste into, and it will put the clouds in there. But I think the cloud image is so much bigger than this one that I need to adjust it. So I need to edit. In fact, when you're doing these, it would be better to keep them at the relative same size so that you don't need to be trying to figure out how big is that. See here, that it's enormous compared to the image that I have. So I should have sized it a little better so that when I bring it in, it's right there, but I can size it. It's just that it would be better to size it before you're doing all this, just so you know that the tools are the same no matter where you're going with them. I'll just bring this over here, keep sizing it. Come on, back. So the cloud is there, and you notice it's on a separate layer. And the mask, it's black where the bird was selected so that the cloud is not affecting the bird. Now, the sky, I would like more drama. And in fact, I'd like it to be a little different than this. So I'll click on the image of the cloud in that layer. You see there's a little white border around it. If I click on the mask, it has a white border around it. And that means whatever I would do is related to that. But I'll click the image and go back to edit free transform because I want to expand it out a little bit so that I can move it around a little differently. Then I would like the leading lines to be more on the bird so that it's right where I want them to be. I'll put that there. And now I can get the move tool and I'm on that layer with the clouds and just move them around a little bit more. And then I may even want to expand it some more, which I will do. Edit, retransform, and move this out this way a little bit. Good. Move it down from here. Good. Click the check mark up at the top, so I have that accepted. I want drama in the sky, so I'll go to levels. But before I go to levels, I'll do it two ways for you. So you see, and I can move the middle slider to the right and and I want to clip it. You see it's darkening the bird. You say, what happened? Oh, I want to clip it. Here's the clip tool. Clip it so that it only affects the sky and doesn't affect the bird. Now, much more drama related to putting the background in. And it was able to darken the sky. And I probably would then do some additional changes of, with the sky layer selected, just darken the bottom portion here to bring your eye into the bird, maybe up in the upper right corner, so on. Remember, if I hold the control key and click on the mask of the cloud layer, I get the dancing ants back for the clouds. And then do a select inverse, gives me just the bird. Now I'll do a levels on that, on the bird, and move the middle slider just in a little bit, which gives me a little darkening. Hold on here, where did I have it? Oh, let me come back. Have the bird selected. Back down to the pixel layer. So here's my rule of thinking, why isn't it working? One is, do I still have the same tool? Do I need that? Do I still have the correct options in the option bar? And am I on the pixel layer? If I'm not on the pixel layer, things aren't working the way they want. So I came down and clicked on the background layer because that's where the pixels are located. And now I'll do levels. And when I adjust that, it's adjusting the bird. So I can adjust the number of things there. Think, oh, yeah, that looks fine. Now I need to come back up and adjust the sky because it's way too bright with a number of things. I want a little more drama in the sky. So with that level, that layer selected, I can go to filter, camera raw, and it brings in just the sky. Go to the dehaze tool. Here's a subtlety of using the dehaze. The dehaze tool tends to make things more, I don't know what I call it, cyan rather than blue. So come down to the color mixer, click on HUE, hue, on the left-hand side, click on the targeted adjustment tool, come over into the blue and just move it to the right a little bit and it changes it more to a pure blue. I don't like what the dehaze slider brings in as a color. So now that brings a whole different look to the image. Those of you who know me well enough would know that the first thing I would do also, or maybe not the first, but then to rotate this one horizontally. And if I wanted the clouds and everything to be done horizontally, but I really like this one this way, but I always look at it to take a look to see how it was, is to click on the bottom layer, hold the shift key, click on the top layer, select them all, image, rotate, and it will rotate everything. Okay. I know, I'm blowing your mind. You'll get it.
John,
Yes.
I noticed along a section along the back of the eagle, there's kind of a white halo.
Oh, yes.
Which happens, which happens quite a bit.
Let me show you something, and then I'll go into the next one. Let me bring that back and show you something.
Yeah. How do you deal with this?
A way to get around that, which makes it much easier with these selection ideas. Oh, in fact, I'll do it on the next image, and I can show you what I often do to make things work a little easier.
So John, a quick question.
Yes.
If you're working on 4 or 5 layers and you just want to adjust the pixels of one layer, if you click the eye, the little eye on the side of the layer, so that the only one active or the only eye showing is the layer you want to adjust, will you just affect that layer, or does it still affect everything underneath?
No, if you click that eye, it's really just turning that layer off. It's just not showing you the layer. It's not, well, let me get multiple layers here so that then we can talk about that. Here's a really neat image I thought was interesting and say, wow, what could we do to this? Well, I think one of the things that'd be interesting to do is to change the sky entirely. But even without doing that, here's another aspect that they've added, Adobe has added, select, and in the drop down, select sky. In other words, it's not saying replace the sky, I'm saying just please select it for me. Now, I could have done that with the quick selection tool or the magic wand or any of those, but it's nice that they gave us the ability to say, just select the sky for me. And it does it automatically. There it is. Again, you might want to go to modify and expand a little bit so that it pushes it down into the other portion of the image. So in fact, maybe I'll do 3 pixels so that when I change it, it doesn't get that banding effect around it. So in this case, I have the sky selected. Let's go to camera raw, where I can use the dehaze slider. To bring some drama into the sky. Very nice. A bit more. I can increase the shadows a little bit, lower the highlights a little bit, add some clarity. Okay. Much nicer. But I would like to add levels because I want it to have a little bit darker, and I will clip it so that it is just adjusting. Don't need it to do that in this case, but I will do it just to be able to do that. And you see, there is some aspect of banding around here that has occurred, so I would need to do something about that later. But before we go into all those kinds of things, I have this, and I have the mask. So I hold the control key and click on the mask. It brings those dancing ants back. Come back up, do an invert so I have the foreground, and then do levels and lighten it, move the right-hand slider in, which is brightening up those areas, and darken that a little bit, open them up just a little bit more. And because I have that selection, You always hold the control key, click on that, come down to the pixel layer, take that into Adobe Camera Raw to open up those shadow areas. I want some detail in those shadow areas. So now I have just that selection, and I open up those shadow areas here and down in this area here. Come back to the main image, and it opened those up nicely for me. Now, there are a number of other things, and I would want to go through, and I did too much when I expanded. I should not have expanded. I should have kept it at a pixel rather than even 2 pixels, because that created that banding in the background. But you need to play with it. But here's a neat thing about everything related to this. I want to just do some subtleties before I take this into Luminar and show you what Luminar can do with some of these things. So I just want to darken the foreground a little bit, the background here, up to the sky a little bit more, do some darkening up in there. When I have some color in an image, I often think about using the sponge tool to increase the color. And as long as you have vibrance up in the toolbar, click, it not only increases the saturation, but it brightens it at the same time. So that brings out a whole different look to me. Here's the fun part related to taking this image into Luminar. Before I do that, I will go to Layer, flatten the image. And the reason I flatten it is because when I take it into Luminar, I need to have all the aspects of what I've just done in Luminar. And then I would probably save it as another image so that I can keep the original with all those layers. So I would do a second save on the image so that I have both. Now with this, I'll save this as go into Luminar. And that's what I did with it. I'll show you how I did it. So I put those beams in there. So go to the plus sign up at the top to the left and say, add an image. So I want to go find that image. You have to remember where you've put things. And I put that in class 40. And by the way, yes, I never thought I would do 40 classes. 40 weeks. Which, by the way, the next class will be 3 weeks from now. It will not be next week. It'll be 3 weeks from now. So I brought that in. Move this up here. At the top, it has edit. Click edit, and it will bring up all the various features that Luminar has to make things, to change structure, color. The black and white here works fairly well. It's not as good to me as Silver Effects Pro. It's good. And you going down, there's something called sun rays. Oh, how neat is that? And you click on the amount layer first and move it in. You see what's happening in the upper left of the image. And as much as I bring that to the right, it's showing you how strong that's going to be. Right above that, I click on place the sun center. I can come over and grab it and then move it where I want it to be in relation to how the light is working within the image. So I can move this around a bit. What I hope that they will change is that they do not right now have the ability to rotate the sun rays around in various areas. So I have to play with that a while. And the way is to say, how long can these be? How short should they be? So you adjust them based on your image. Penetration means they show it more dense or less dense. So you play with the width of those. Sun setting means the circle itself up there. Don't want that to show, so I will lower that. You see what it's doing? It's very bright. I'm taking that out because I'm going to push that off the edge. I don't want that showing, but you could. And sun glow, if you are showing the image, you may want to have that as less glow or more glow. I simply remove for this image that altogether. Come down to the raise setting, click on it, number of rays, so you could increase them. And here's where you can rotate them a little bit. I really think they should come out with a better way of rotating the image, the rotating rays. But it works to some extent. That's pretty good. And do you want to randomize or not? And no, don't do that. No. So you just play with that. Then warmth. Do the drop down for warmth, and you can move that to the right. And on this image, I wanted the rays to be a little warmer. This says the sun warmth. I don't want the sun warmth. I want the sun rays to get warmer so that matches the image more. Here we go. So now I've put those in. Come back up to the top, click on the place the sun, because I want to just move it off a little bit. That worked very well. There we go. We're good. So that's what I've done to this by adding those rays. And if I don't want these rays down in the far right side or up in the upper part, in the top up here where it says sun rays, if you click that middle circle, it says add a mask. And the mask is the same idea of what we have in Photoshop. And so I could paint on the mask or I can erase from the mask. And if I erase and bring that over, and I could make the circle big or not. So when I'm painting, where I'm taking off color, it's removing those rays. So I come up here and remove these. So that I have just those rays in that area. Now I want to save this, and at the top it says export. Click on export, come over and click on save to disk, and then save photo to disk. And it will remember where you picked it up. And if you want to change where you do browse, it'll allow you to select a different folder. I can change the name so that I'm not overlaying the one that I had there. I'll change it number 5. I can make it a TIFF, a JPEG, or whatever. I save them as a TIFF. Actual size, not changing the size, and 300 resolution, and then click export. And it will save what we've just accomplished in the folder where I had the original image. And having those rays gives a very different look to the image, very artistic. That's where I was going. I'll show you some additional things once I know that it's there. Okay, it's there. So I'll minimize that. Come back to where we were. Here it is, saved it in that folder. Now I will do some additional adjustments related to dodge and burn to make this image work a little better. And these are just personal kinds of things that I like, that I think are important. I want to open up that shadow area. Whoop, a little too much. I want to open that shadow area just a little bit here in the lower left corner. And over on the right-hand side, just some of those areas. Just open those up a little bit. And I want to darken some areas in relation to how the rays are now affecting the image. So I'll darken the sky area on the left-hand side a little bit so that it brings more of the attention into the area where the ray is. And I'll even darken this part of rock here and below the ray over here so that the ray is coming in on that area. And if I wanted to increase the aspect of the ray, I could use the dodge tool on highlights and just run across that a little more, and maybe even more on structure. So that's
a question, John.
Yes.
You saved that as a TIFF in Luminar, but it looks like it's just has one. There's no nothing but the background on it now.
Yes, that's right. Because I had flattened it before is that what you're asking? I flattened it before I took it into Luminar.
Yeah, but then in Luminar, you saved it as a TIFF. So wouldn't it save the layers?
No, it does. It doesn't. Not for the rays. It doesn't. No.
Okay, thanks.
Good question. All right. I'm sure I've blown your mind today, but play with those capabilities of selecting specific areas. Let me see if there was one other area that I thought, oh, yes. Here's what I've done also to make a selection. I photographed this Native American doing some dance over in Stone Mountain, and I wanted to use her at some point. And so I made a selection of just her. And then I have a background that I used from Mesa Verde, and I put her in it. And then I went to Luminar and added some light rays. So that's my final image based on a selection of her. I brought in my image of the Mesa Verde, put her in it, and then added light rays to it. So maybe the next time or the next class or some point, I'll show you how some selections capability. I'll do it quickly here because this is, you need on this type of image, because the background is not so simple. When you want to make a selection of this, and I'll use I click on the selection tools, and then up in the toolbar, I will select, as soon as I clear this, select subject, and it will do a very good job. But because there are so many things similar throughout the background and the foreground image, it will not just find it as easily as what we did with the flower, because there was a big difference between the flower and the background aspect of that flower. So as this is doing it, I'll zoom in and show you. See, it didn't pick up her arm. And it didn't pick up all the aspect around that. So I can go up to the quick selection tool, make it a little smaller, come up to the plus sign and add to it, so that now I just keep adding what I need to in order to have and do it a little bit at a time. Don't try to do the entire something that you're doing. Do that. And I need to remove that. I can either go up and get the minus sign or hold the control key, and it allows me to have a minus sign. So now I need to refine that selection. So I need to keep doing these types of adjustments till I get it the way I want. And sometimes I go back and forth on an area in order to get it to pick what I want, because the background here is so similar to what the main subject is. And down in here, I want to pick up this area, but it's picked up a little bit of the background, hold the Alt key, make a selection of that. So now I'm starting to move around. Okay, that looks pretty good. No, that's a little bit too much here. Over here, it's working, but here it isn't. Here isn't, see right at this location. Let me move this over. It would be nice to have this removed. And one of the aspects that they've added in a new capability is object selection tool. so that then when I bring this in and I make a little rectangle around that, it will automatically do things for me if I do them with negative. Come on. It's taking too long to do exactly what I want. Just do it with the quick selection tool. Put it on minus, hold the Alt key, put it on minus, remove that. That looks pretty good. Then I come down through the rest of the image to see that it's picking up everything I want. So this is what I needed to do to select just the image and then put it into something else. And you would say, well, how do you do that? How do you get it into something else? Let me finish this part over here. Remove this stuff. It's fairly close to what I want. Oh, I don't have the feather. So I'll make the quick selection tool much smaller so that I'm inside the feather. Make my selections, clean it up a little bit. Make sure that I'm connecting to her head. Look over this way, that all looks pretty good. Then I go up to layer, duplicate layer, and it will duplicate it. You can call it whatever you want. I'll call it 80 Indian. So over in the layers palette, I turn off, well, didn't do it. Yeah, I go back in history here. With that selection made, hold the control key, do it my way, Control J, hold the control key, press the J button. I don't know why I didn't do it the other way. Oh, I used the wrong feature. Now, if I turn off the bottom part, you see that I have just her selected. And I can clean it up a little bit by coming over to the eraser tool and remove some of these things that I don't want, clean it up however I want to clean it up. Just whatever.
John, there's a part of a background face above her right
Oh,
shoulder.
yes, I see it. Right there. Ah, you didn't like that in there, huh?
Not only did she go for the scalp, she got the whole head.
Yeah. Good one. So I can erase that easily. So I clean up what I want the way I want it. Once I have that finished, I usually save the image so I can use it in multiple locations. And I would save it as a TIFF or a PSD so that it saves without compressing it. If I don't save it as a TIFF, then it will compress it and the background will be white. So if you save it as a TIFF, the background is not there, it's only that piece. And if you have other images where you want to put her, I'll put her in here for now. So I had the Mesa Verde shot that I had and I put her in there, but here's the thing involved, I'll put her in here. I don't think she actually goes well in this one, but she'll show you how I would do these. I have her, and I want her the other way. So in looking the other way, I'll reverse. Come on. Get the move tool. There's two ways you can move this. I could grab the layer and move it in, or I can have the layer showing, click on her, hold down the left mouse button and bring her over and drop her into the main image. And you say, oh, she's up there. Oh yeah, well, I must have done that twice. Let's go back there. So she's in there and I can size her. A separate layer. Go to edit, free transform. I'll move her up so you see her. Wherever you want to put her, let's put her sort of here. Hold the shift key and grab one of the corners and move her down where you think she's appropriate size. Up and click the check mark. So now I've put her in. Now you need to put a shadow behind her and you need to put her, she's not appropriate for this image because of the coloring, but I wanted to show you how to do that. And you see now that she's on a separate layer, so I can do anything I want to that and the background and those kinds of things. Just wanted to show you how it's the, I'll go into more sophistication of these kinds of things in the future, but that's how you do it.